Hello, trading has closed on June the 10th, 2021. Let's start with our disclaimer, of course. It's my trading plan for tomorrow, Friday, June the 11th, 2021. I can be completely wrong, so trade at your own risk. Please follow the rules of my channel. Click like and tell your friends. Look for the pattern with the early high, which is here, and tomorrow should have the early low. Here's what else we said. So the commonest thing was a gap and a prompt move outside the day's range. We got that. These are what I think patterns will be next week. Well, I said we should have a gap, but I could justify a move in either direction. We actually moved sharply a little lower in futures before we moved to a new all-time high in cash. I have been saying at some point we were going to break higher, and the only question was whether or not we'd break lower first. We broke lower in futures, but not cash. Here was our target for today, 42.3318. That printed. It was a support level. You'll see that low there missed it by 1 cent, so that's pretty good. Now we have a new target for tomorrow, 42.43.55. Unless we gap down smartly, that's my call, but don't forget, when you're near all-time highs, there's always a risk of having a failed target. MeJT said this drop was going to retrace, said this rally would retrace. Now it says this drop is going to retrace. We had this big move up in the morning. This was the reference bar from the morning. Often it's a support resistance area. Look at what great resistance that offered throughout the day. Failing to hold that level early on after this rally was kind of a clue that we'd broken under support, and that support became resistance. Well, this is a major trend line. You connect this low with this low, and you get today's high right on the nose. So it's a major trend line. We hit it and reversed. And the rule I have for tomorrow, at least, is either you gap over this trend line or the trend line wins. If we gap over it, nothing can stop the rally. If we don't gap over it, how low could we go? Well, it's tough to be positive about these things. I was calling this a wall. I'd like it to be a straight line drop. Maybe this is too much consolidation, so maybe that interpretation is wrong. That's why I put a question mark under it. But if it is a wall and you gap up, usually this gap fills pretty soon, usually within a day or so, and you find support under the origin of the wall, under here. But that's been tested already. So if we did get a big drop like that, I don't think that support would necessarily hold. That's if that's in fact a wall. It's kind of iffy, as I say, and that's if we don't gap up and if we start down instead. There's something called an Adam and Eve top. That's Adam and that's Eve. And if we undercut this, it could be more than just through here. It hasn't happened yet. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low, could still gap up. Although SPX hit a new all-time high, today's action left a lot to be desired. Industrials, NASDAQ, Russell, they didn't hit new highs. Transports actually dropped. I'll tell you, I keep a list of individual stocks too. Usually, when the market's going to race ahead, I have a long list of stocks I'd be willing to buy. I really can't find very many, if any, stocks I'm waiting to go long on tomorrow. The volatility index hit a new low. It's a sentiment indicators. It means people are not willing to pay up for puts. We also rallied to a major trend line, didn't go through it. But that being said, there's a higher MeJT target. Unless we get done smartly, the rules favor printing tomorrow. It's an increased risk it won't, because we typically leave a failed target of major changes in trend. Gapping and promptly overtaking today's high will help keep us in charge if you're a bull. If we do not do that, today's action risks being a false break higher, even if today wasn't the actual print high. Could be in this area if we don't clear that pretty fast. So, what the bulls need to do is to gap and take out this high, ideally by gapping over it. At the very least, unless we gap down smartly, there's a good chance we trade a few points higher to 42, 43, 55. But if we start down, there's a target of undercutting yesterday's low, and support there could have been tested and probably won't hold. So the early action, I think, is going to be important tomorrow. This wasn't the kind of runaway break the bulls have been waiting for, and I've been calling for a pretty big move, and in my opinion, this wasn't it. So unless something happens pretty soon, I'm going to call that prediction a miss. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low. Early action should be critical. Good chance we overtake this high or yesterday's low pretty soon, but it's not a guarantee. And that is today's call.